What is consciousness? Consciousness refers to your individual awareness of your unique thoughts, memories, feelings, sensations, and environments. Essentially, your consciousness is your awareness of yourself and the world around you.
What we call consciousness. We are conscious of both the external world and our internal selves. We are aware of an image in much the same way we are aware of ourselves looking at an image, or our inner thoughts and emotions. But where does consciousness come from? Scientists, theologians, and philosophers have been trying to get to the bottom of this question for centuries without reaching any consensus. One recent theory is that consciousness is the brain's imperfect picture of its own activity. To understand this theory, it helps to have a clear idea of one important way the brain processes information from our senses. Based on sensory input, it builds models, which are continuously updating simplified descriptions of objects and events in the world.
For my first example of consciousness, I would like to use a lady walking in a tunnel with a strange man following. I chose this picture because this lady is well aware and awake of her surroundings. In this example, I am using a man that is unconscious while sleeping. In other words, a sleeping person is unconscious to most things happening in the environment. The biggest difference between someone who is asleep and someone who has fainted or gone into a coma is the fact that a sleeping person can be aroused if the stimulus is strong enough.
May be responsible for kickstarting the idea in abductees' minds to begin with. It's called sleep paralysis, and it's a true waking nightmare.
I was held down by these living sort of ribbons that came across me and tightened up around me and bound me down. And then, of course, the aliens filed into the room and levitated me and took me out of the room. And it was a very bizarre experience. And I thought, I'm being abducted. You know, why? Why am I being abducted? What are they doing? Turns out I was just having sleep paralysis.
When we dream, our brain switches off our ability to move so that we don't injure ourselves acting out those dreams. When we wake up, it switches us back on again. But sometimes the switch is out of sync, and we wake up paralyzed. Brian Sharpless, a clinical psychologist at Penn State, specializes in sleep paralysis research.
Sleep paralysis is the experience of either falling asleep or waking up and you find that you're paralyzed, but you have some degree of conscious awareness and your eyes are still able to move and you can look around the room. It's often a terrifying experience for people that are suffering from it, not only from the paralysis, but because of the hallucinations that often accompany it.
The hallucinations vary, but come in three general types.
Sleep paralysis is a feeling of being unable to move, either at the onset of sleep or upon awakening. The individual senses and awareness are intact, but they may feel as if there is pressure on them or as if they are choking. It may be accompanied by hallucination and intense fear.
Disorder. This disorder is almost strictly in older men. It has been described in women, has been described in children, but the great majority, 99%, is older men. And these folks, remember that can cause injury to themselves and others. Some people dive off the bed because they're trying to get out of the way of whatever truck is coming, and they hit themselves from something sharp, and now they're injured. And an important thing is that 85% of them already have or will develop some type of neurodegenerative disorder. The most common one is
For
Parkinson's.
concept number 2, in Chapter 4 of Consciousness, I chose rapid eye movement, better known as REM sleep behavior disorder, is a sleep disorder in which you physically act out vivid, often unpleasant dreams with vocal sounds and sudden, often violent arm and leg movements during REM sleep, sometimes called dream enacting behavior. What is LSD? LSD is simply an acid. LSD is one of the most potent mood-changing chemicals. It is produced in crystal form in illegal laboratories, mainly in the U.S. These crystals are converted to a liquid for distribution. It is odorless, colorless, and has a slightly bitter taste.
LSD, also known as acid, is a psychedelic drug famous for altering your perception and creating hallucinations. But how does it actually work, and what is the effect on your body, and more importantly, your brain? Lysergic acid diethylamide was first synthesized in 1938 from a fungus that grew on rye. In 1943, the inventor Albert Hofmann accidentally touched some to his mouth, got high, and became the first person in the world to learn about the psychedelic properties of LSD. Research on the drug took place in the 50s and 60s, but as recreational use began to spread, psychedelic drugs were made an illegal Schedule I drug in the US, and the research programs were halted. While other drugs are dosed in grams, a single dose of LSD is measured in 1/100,000th of a gram, which is 1/10 the mass of a grain of sand. LSD affects multiple brain receptors such as the dopamine receptors, adrenergic receptors, and glutamate receptors, but most research is on the stimulatory serotonin receptor 5-HT2A. LSD hits the receptor at an unexpected angle, causing it to fold over the LSD, creating a lid. The LSD is then trapped, which makes this receptor continually fire, causing you to hallucinate. Your body responds by sucking the 5-HT2A receptor into the cell in order to degrade the LSD, but this can take up to 12+ hours to happen, which is why the high can last so long. Recently, LSD research has seen a revival, and using contemporary neuroimaging techniques, researchers found that the drug causes parts of your brain to communicate in unique ways, especially in the visual cortex, potentially explaining the vivid and complex hallucinations. There's also decreased blood flow in the default mode network, correlating to strong change.